All right, this is my last of the 3 videos that I'm going to create, and this video is dealing with working with your project files. The publisher only includes 1 project file, and you can go ahead and you already did. You restored that in Chapter 1, and then you worked through Chapter 1. Now you notice that you have to use that same project file for Project 2 and so forth. Well, what I did is I put this project file out there for you in Blackboard so that you could go ahead and start from a clean slate. Well, I'm going to minimize my QuickBooks right now. I'm going to go into Blackboard. And in Blackboard, I went ahead, I sent you an email, and it's under the How-To Info and Files Needed. If you scroll all the way down, you will notice that you have a clean project file to start project for. And I should actually edit this and go ahead and put a clean project file to start the Chapter 4 project. Okay, so it's not really, to go ahead and start at the beginning of Chapter 4, it's to go ahead and start your project file. Well, anyway, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and just click on this link. It'll say open with QuickBooks Launcher or save the file. Now yours could automatically go into save the file, but what I want to do is make sure you pick the option to save the file. It will go ahead and save for you. Mine's actually saving up here to the upper right. A lot of you are different, but what we want to do is eventually open the containing folder that contains this file. So I'm just going to click on this down arrow key, and here is the file. So I'm just going to go ahead. On the right hand side it says open containing folder. So I click on that, and here is where my file is located. Well, what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and put over on the screen, is bring it over to my flash drive. So over here, the USB, I'm going to expand it so I can see the ACCT105. I'm going to expand that. Now if you click on it, it is going to take us out of that downloads folder. Then you're going to have to go ahead and click on the downloads folder so you can see it. But I just clicked so I can expand this. I want to get that particular file to my student's data file. Your name, project Larry's Landscaping, right click, go over to the student data file. Whoops, that kind of jumped on me. Go over to the student data file right here and go ahead and say move. So what it's going to do is place that particular file in the student data file. So if I click on here, you will notice here's the new one. Okay, this is what's going to be used to go ahead and start the Chapter 4 project. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here. I'm going to minimize my browser. I am going to go back into QuickBooks. Now what I did is I launched QuickBooks, and I need to restore that project file. So because I provided you a clean copy, because the publisher did not provide us any clean copies for any of the projects. I wanted everybody to start Chapter 4 with a clean copy. So we go ahead and we need to restore, because it's coming from my computer going to your computer. Restore backup copy. Again, where will you find these directions if you forget? It is on page 1.10. I go ahead and say next, local copy, next. Where is this file? Because I've already been here. It kind of goes to that folder, but make sure you're on ACCT105 student data files. Here's the file name right there. I select it, say open, or double click on it. Where do you want to restore this file? Say next. Now, look at it. It's actually going to a whole different folder. So make sure you don't just give it a name and say save. Make sure you know where you are saving that file. I am going to go down to the Gardner USB, the one that I wanted on, ACCT105, student data files. This is where I want to restore on my flash drive, the new one that I created. Not on the hard drive, not on another flash drive, this one. I go down onto the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and give it my name. And let me see, what do they want it named at? Your name, Project 4, Larry's Landscaping. Now, when you work through the chapter, we dealt with Rock Castle Construction. Now we deal with, for the project files, Larry's Landscaping. So I got Project 4, Larry's Landscaping, save. Now it's going to go ahead and restore that data so that I can work with this particular project. So it's going to take a little while to go ahead and restore, but on page 4.50 is where it actually starts talking about working on the project. Then what I'm going to do is take you through exporting to Excel, because it's just a little bit different from when you worked in the chapter, not much. But in here, what you want to do, once it's restored, go to Company, My Company. You will notice that it says Instructor, Project 3, because what I did is I took a backup of a clean copy when I finished all the projects. So I go into here, it says Instructor. I'm just going to add my name. And this time, I'm going to put Project 4 and say OK. Make sure that it changes it here, and then you can exit out of the My Company window. Now let's say I went through, I entered the sales receipts, the invoices, the payments, all that kind of stuff, and I want to go down. I'm going to actually go down to number 9 and export a journal report. So I'm going to go over to the reports. I'm going to go up to let's see, where is it? Accounting and taxes. Go down here to a journal. And what they want to do is they want to export it for December. I'm hoping that there are some entries here. December 19th through the 21st. And I'm going to go ahead and run that report. I don't like to see these darn messages, so I'm going to say I don't want to see them in the future. Say OK. Now, actually, because I didn't do any of these entries on this particular thing, let's see if there's anything even for the last month. Let's see, there we go. So I just want to go ahead and see something in here, but you're going to make sure you follow the directions in the book for the correct months and so forth. We need to get this report out to the Excel spreadsheet. We don't need to download the Excel spreadsheet again. It's already downloaded from when we worked on in the chapter. So I go to Excel. Create a new worksheet. Where am I going to find these directions? Page 1.38. That's where you're going to go back to. Create a new worksheet. It's going to come up to here. You want to go ahead and select Replace an existing worksheet. Make sure you check, because it's not always going to save that particular worksheet. So I go to Browse. Mine actually picked up a whole different worksheet. So what I have to do is go to my Gardner USB, Accounting 105, Student Data Files. There's my Chapter 4. Double click or click and say Open. I'm going to double click. Here is my Project 4, step number 7. If you look on page 4.51, Project 4, step 9 is a journal report. So I'm going to go ahead and select that journal report. Now, do not export, because this is the first time you've been in here. Go to the advanced. Make sure that this is clear. This is clear. There are no checks. Good, there isn't. Great. And this is on printed report and screen. Now, I did notice on somebody else's computer when I was helping them that these were checked. Okay? So always make sure you go ahead and check that the very first time you restore a company. I get all this done. I say Export. I don't want to see these messages again either. So I say Put a check mark there and say yes. What it is going to do is go ahead and open Excel and export that particular report into Excel. And some of the reports take a little bit of time to go ahead and export. Now, if you get an error when you try to export into Excel, what happened is your computer was on for a certain amount of time. There were some updates that occurred kind of behind the scenes. You might have to just shut everything down, restart your computer, go back into QuickBooks, re-export your report, and you're okay. It did happen to me a couple times and some students. Make sure that when you export, you definitely have the title up here, you have the date, and you have everything, displaying the same as what you would see in QuickBooks. When you go ahead and submit this file to me, I'm just going to go way over to the left. You can funnel through the different sheets just with the arrow keys over here. If you go all the way to the left, this Chapter 4 report. So say you have everything done. The Chapter 4 report, you're going to go here and put an X in each one of these reports. All these were asked for you to go ahead and submit. When you click on each one of these tabs, you should not come to a blank screen. As you are exporting, it'll just keep going to the next one, next one, next one, next one, and so forth. You're going to have all these filled up. Okay, so if you have some blank, obviously you missed some reports, and it's going to grade it as a 0 on my end. When you get done each time, you go ahead and export a report. Make sure you close and save, and then you go on to the next report and export that as well. Okay. Now, with, I'm not going to modify these. When you work on the project, I want you to go ahead and do the project. So we restored it, we worked on it, we took all the reports. Step number 11, it does say save a backup of your work. Remember when you work through the chapter and the exercises, I said don't worry about the backup. When you deal with the projects, I do, yes, want you to take a backup copy. So on page 1.45 are the instructions to take a backup. I'm going to walk you through it. Let's say I'm already done. I'm going to go File, Backup a Company, Create a Local Backup. It's automatically selected. Say Next. It's going to say, tell us where you want your backup. So I'm going to browse. I am going to go down to that flash drive that I created. Expand it. Expand the ACCT105 and go and select Student Data Files. I'm going to say OK. Now, the directions in the book might be a little bit different, but what I like to do is I like to have the date and time added onto here. And because I'm going to take a number of backup copies for my projects, I usually don't want to limit it, but you can go ahead and keep that on there. Limit the number of backup copies in this folder to 3. Okay? And that will limit the actual backup copies for your projects. But I'm going to take that off because for the sake of this particular working through and dealing with all the projects, I don't want to limit it. But when you do with your company back, a live company, you do want to limit for space-wise. Remind me to back up when I close my company every 4 times. No, I don't want to. Okay, not for the purpose of in here because you might close out 6 times. I don't want you to have to be reminded. So you go ahead and say OK. It is going to say, hey, you're working on your flash drive. Why the heck are you taking a backup and putting it on your flash drive too? If your flash drive gets corrupted, you lost everything. Well, I have backup copies for you for the sake of this class. I can go ahead and get you backup copies, you know, if we need to get you started again. Yes, if you are going to deal with a company, you are going to have an external backup. You're not going to back up on your computer. You're going to back up external or to a server. That is the proper way to go ahead and deal with backups. But we're going to go ahead and say, use this location. Save it now and say next. Now it says give it a name. So it's going to be Jennifer Gardner, Project 4, Larry's Landscaping, and here's my backup date and time that I took that. I finished Project 4. I want a backup of after it's completed, so I save it. So now it's going to go ahead and back up this file for me. Takes a little bit of time. But the reason why I'm doing this is, again, the company doesn't provide us anything. If we work through chapter 1, 2, 3, and let's say I didn't provide you a clean copy for chapter 4. You got halfway into chapter 4. Oh boy, I really made a mess of this thing. You don't know how to fix it because we didn't learn how to fix a lot of our errors yet. You don't want to have to go all the way back to project 1 and go ahead and put everything in. You can just simply go back to your backup file you took at the end of chapter 3. Restore it and then start from that point forward. So that is the nice thing about backups. Okay, so I just say okay. It'll bring me right back into the company file. I can continue work or close out of it. Okay, so I want to go ahead and exit QuickBooks. When you go ahead and you start project 5, I want you to go back and look at your graded chapter 4 comments. Do you have anything wrong with your project? Do you need to correct anything? Can you go ahead and continue on and work with your file in project 5 that you have? Do I need to provide you a file to go ahead and start? Okay, so make sure you look at your comments before you go on to the next project, because you are dealing with your file and continuing forward. When you get into the next chapter for the project, I want you to go ahead and start QuickBooks. This time I want you, now I'm starting project 5, open or restore, restore backup copy, say next, local backup. Go ahead and locate this backup file you took from project 5, from project 4. You restore it and now name it project 5. Now that's if you had a clean project 4 after migrating. Hopefully this helps and sheds a lot of light on a lot of this confusion that the book kind of portrays to us. Give me some feedback. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. And hopefully this, again, this really helps. Okay, let me see if I can end this.